together. That poor performance against Buffalo the week before, they took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the that's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome into Pro Football Today, the pregame show here on SportsGrid TV. Kasey Hudson, Dave Sharapan, Tom Vecchio, and Adam Kaufman welcome you in to join us for Monday Night Football as we get you ready for all things Dolphins taking on the Rams. Before we dive into it, also a massive shout out to all the veterans out there, how much we appreciate everything you have done for us. And it's your day, but so is every single day. We're going to make it that much better, though. We got a lot to get into because I got to ask 100 questions when it comes to this matchup. It just feels tricky. And not just to consider the song in this one, but we find out that Hill should be in the mix regardless of a ligament situation. And then beforehand, the props were just making it look like the Dolphins had no wide receivers to get into the mix of this. We saw a battle between the Dolphins and the Bills that made things more interesting. But then Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, there's just a number of rhythmic opportunities for the Rams. So first and foremost, how's your Monday and initial thoughts on this Monday night matchup?
Great to see you. Yes, shout out to all the veterans and shout out to all the people that have been playing NFL games like yesterday and playing those favorites and didn't quite have one of those days. So tonight we're with Rams in LA, Miami's there, and you mentioned the wide receivers. We'll get to that in the position discussions, different things. I can tell you this right now, Case and Adam and Tom, as we're a team, we're a line, a unit. I love it with Vinny in the background. The line's coming down. They're betting the Dolphins out here in Vegas. It's a dog week. All right, dogs, what were they, 10-5 against the spread. I think 5 outright winners. It's a dog week so far. I think it continues tonight. That's why I wore the Dolphin stuff.
Oh, that's why you wear the Dolphin stuff. I think you're just going for all the color palettes that do so well. But this actually makes the perfect pivot to check in on Adam Kaufman, but more importantly, see if there's any trends that will be our friends for this mix-up. Because for one, I saw something about Stafford being 1-4 or 1-3 for Monday Night Football since being at the helm with the Rams. So what trends or initial thoughts do you have for this one, Adam?
Let me dig into my my bag of trend tricks here, see what we have. Scroll the board. Well, I'll tell you this. The Dolphins, the team that Sharapan here wants to back tonight, how about this? 1-14 straight up, 5-10 against the spread the last 15 games as an underdog. Not 15 like primetime games or 15 games on a Monday or 15 games that Tua Tagovailoa is available or 15 games that Mike McDaniel offers a smarky comment on the sidelines to the reporter in game. No. 1-14 straight up as underdogs over the last 15 games, Dave. How you feeling about your Dolphins now? That is the question. The Rams have also come in hot, man. They have won. Look, there's always a chance any given Sunday, even on a Monday. The Rams have won 3 straight. They are healthy, obviously. Puka Nacua probably isn't going to deck anybody tonight, so he's going to play more than just the first quarter. Cooper Kupp may not actually be, lights out simply because, and this is not a anti-Cooper Kupp thing or anything like that. He does transcend matchups, but the Dolphins are actually pretty good against the slot receiver position. And so that in mind, it may be that much more Puka Nacua, and I have some more thoughts on that I'll share a little bit later on. But listen, I'm gonna take you out of the mix for a sec, Case. I'm gonna throw it right to Tom because I know that Tom, from talking to him earlier, is emphatic on the Rams tonight. So I want to hear all the reasons that he is on the opposite side of Dave.
The Rams are going to win tonight, and Puka Nacua is going to score tonight. That's my main takeaway. And ultimately, the Rams are just getting healthier. This is the Rams team that is pointing upwards. Not only are we going to see Puka Nacua, like you said, play a full game. He's not going to get ejected tonight. The Rams also activated 2 offensive linemen tonight. They are getting back and healthy. And when it comes to the Dolphins defense, the point I made to Ben and Donnie on the early line this morning is that the Dolphins defense has not been tested. We look back at their schedule. We're seeing games against Tennessee. No one has to pass the ball. Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots. Really not too much of a passing threat. A game against the Bills, the game that Tua got hurt. Josh Allen didn't have to do anything. Now we're seeing games where their defense is actually starting to flip. So at a high-level perspective, just looking at the Dolphins' defense, it actually seems pretty good. They're not giving up a whole lot of yards, not giving up a whole lot of passing yards. But actually, if you dig into some of their DVOA numbers, they are terrible. So this is going to be a Puka Nacua game where we see their offense finally at full health, not just the receivers, but also the offensive line to protect Matt Stafford. I think this is a game that he truly shines. He probably goes over all of his props tonight, and we see Puka Nacua not only score, but go for 60, 70, 80, maybe even 100 yards tonight.
Sounds like Tom's calling this the Puka Nacua game.
I know.
All right. That's what I heard.
Could be a moonshot.
I was like, I think he threw the dart at his player. So everyone just keep a circle on that one. But there's I know I say this a number of times. There's plenty to unpack, but this one just feels a little too close for comfort in a number of ways. So Sports King, throwing it back to you right now. Exactly. Can we sing that throughout the entire segment, just over and over again? Let's see how many times everyone can sneak in the tricky. So 2.5 on the spread is what I'm seeing. 49.5 on the total, currently per fan duel. Talk to me about what these numbers are trying to indicate to bettors at the moment, because we got news that Hill should be active for this game. The whole wrist ligament thing is throwing me for a bit of a loop, but regardless, I already thought, hey, why not see what HN can produce, because the number of rushing yards to certain running backs that the Rams have allowed to take place here, that feels kind of obvious to me. And then there's an offensive lineman. His name is escaping me at the moment. I'll get back to specificity later, but the Miami Dolphins are going to be short in O-linemen, which means there's not going to be as much time to get certain things rolling, but Tua has a point to make tonight. So what do we see with this spread and this total thus far?
Well, a lot of times what you do in a book, in a risk room and an odds maker, is you look at the past. And the most recent past, especially for us here on this show, was Thursday night, where we saw, I think, all of us nailed pretty much every prop or everything we talked about. We had the most primetime fun game that we had all season. That's what this is shaping up to be. With this total peaking at 50, I think the first book to go to 50 probably loses, because you're waiting right now. 50 is a weird number. It's just one of those ones you keep in the back of your mind. I don't want to go there yet. And you wait. And when you go and you get that deluge of underbets, public's on over. A lot of people are on props over on a lot of players. And I don't know. I mean, after what happened on Thursday, if this is the Puka Nacua game, as Vecchio says it is, I mean, maybe the Rams side might be the right side. I get it. But I'm going to stick with the book side and say the Dolphins are going to be one of the bigger needs of the week. And the books are having a pretty good week.
I'll say this. It could be a Puka Nacua game, but not a Rams win. Hot seat coming at Adam Kaufman here because, you're wearing the Dolphins gear, so it's obvious where you're kind of sitting. And then Tom made his case very crystal clear. But Adam's throwing around all kinds of, who he's tossing it to over here, but hasn't made a case for which side he's leaning on, unless I missed it. So, Kaufman, less than a minute. Where are you leaning?
I'm on the Rams side. I am. I don't know that I feel quite as emphatic as Tom does, like that it's going to be a 14-point LA win or something like that. But by the same token, I'm not going to say I'd be all that surprised. The Dolphins are kind of in dire straits, and Tyreek Hill, this is a torn ligament in his wrist that he's going to play through. I couldn't do anything with a torn ligament, even sit on the couch and watch television. How's he going to play a football game? I mean, this is a problem. By the way, there's a Run DMC song. It's called Hit It Run. It is more apropos if we're going to talk about their songs because Tyreek Hill had about 15 hits.
Yes. We're going to pick different song titles and just throw into the mix. Don't go anywhere. Keep the party here at Pro Football Today on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
The Seahawks, I expected a bounce back after that poor performance against Buffalo the week before. They took the Rams right down to the wire.
The Cardinals are the top spot at the moment. That's not going to hold. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are not going to win this division, but they are 5-4. After that, you've got the Rams, the Niners, each 4-4. The Niners, God willing, man. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey ever does come back.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today. It's the pregame show with Kasey Hudson, Dave Sharapan, Tom Vecchio, and Adam Kaufman running through this Monday matchup between the Rams hosting the Miami Dolphins. Now, we're trying to figure out, because for the most part, it seems like a lot of people are siding with the Rams being able to run away with this one. And for the most part as well, they are the healthier team coming into this, but anything can happen on Monday night. We've learned that one the hard way in a number of times. But let's take this head-to-head, let's talk about some quarterback matchups here. You got Stafford, what I'm seeing, but I'm sure the guys have a different graphic popping up here shortly. 253.5 for Stafford's passing yards, 247.5 for Tua. Now, upon Tua's return, let's just say it has not been bad. I mean, there's not been a bunch of turnovers. They had a good competition with the Bills the other week. He is likely going to have a torn ligament receiver in the mix. Who knows? But is there any option here where we talk about the Dolphins making this close to that 2.5 spread, more importantly? So, Adam, we were chatting with you before the break. You gave us some good song titles. So put the crown back on. Talk to me about these two quarterbacks going head-to-head.
Look, I think they're both going to go over. I think we're getting points tonight. I mean, I only lean toward the over. I don't have a really strong conviction about it. I think the line is pretty efficient, but I do think we're going to be in the vicinity of 50 points between these two teams. But if I feel that way, as I do, that means I'm expecting the quarterbacks to be a big part of it. You know, as good as Kyren Williams is, obviously, and how dominant the Rams are capable of being on the ground, I still think Matt Stafford, again, with his full arsenal, which is really two guys, you know, no disrespect to like DeMarcus Robinson or Colby Parkinson and guys like that. It's Cooper Kupp and it's Puka Nacua. And if those two guys are available and themselves throughout this game, Stafford's going over 250 passing. And again, just to, in the spirit of like narrative street, right? And like, if we want to bet by telling ourselves a story and all that, well, if my story, as I have already started to illustrate, is that the Rams are going to win this game, then I probably think that the Dolphins to some degree are going to be playing from behind, which means Tua Tagovailoa passing the ball. If he can play a full game, which is always a question mark with Tua, then I think the yards are going to get there. I wouldn't be at all surprised if both these guys get to 275 or 300, you know, in terms of passing yardage. It's not necessarily Tyreek Hill, though, and I know we'll talk about the receivers. Jalen Waddle's going to have an opportunity. Jonnu Smith is going to have an opportunity. Devon Achane, who may be a wide receiver if you look at his numbers, is going to obviously have an opportunity. There are going to be yards all around the field, courtesy of the passing game. I like the overs on both these guys.
Okay, I like the overs pretty much on both of these guys as well. Plus, I'm really liking over 1.5 passing for Matthew Stafford. Tom, take it to you. What are the best props and angles that you like between these two QBs?
I'm maybe 100% in agreement with Adam on what we're going to be seeing tonight. I think the Rams are going to be moving the ball left, right, and center. And you know, looking back specifically over these past two games for the Dolphins defense, it's bad. Like giving up nearly 30 points to the Cardinals and then 30 points to the Bills. What I love most about the Rams is when we have them at full health, like we do with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, we actually know where the ball is going to be going. And adding Kyren Williams, we're literally talking about a team where 70% or so of the total touches are going to be going to these three players, which is basically exactly what we want to see. And, you know, I love Puka Nacua tonight. Like, I think it's going to be the Puka Nacua game. You know, week one, he gets injured. He then comes back at that game against the Vikings. He had an amazing game, but he didn't score. And then he doesn't do anything last week because he gets ejected. Like, this is the time for them to fully flex the offense. Cooper Kupp scored in that game against the Vikings, and we saw Puka go over 100 yards without scoring. So we're going to see the quarterbacks put up yards tonight. We're going to see Matt Stafford on the yards, on the attempts, on the completions. Just as I said last Thursday with Joe Burrow, I think we're going to see Matt Stafford go over all of his props. We're going to see the Rams win and cover, and we're going to see the overhit tonight.
All right. So, Dave, I got a question for you. And, Tom, if you want to jump in and have a conversation with Dave here on this one. I love that you picked your player. It's Puka Nacua's night. But is it a little too obvious for Stafford to kind of hyperfixate on one of his targets? And, Adam, you mentioned the fact that he basically has two between Kupp and Puka Nacua. But if you look at the numbers, Robinson's been his red zone guy. I mean, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games? It hasn't been Cooper Kupp getting in the end zone. It hasn't been Puka Nacua getting in the end zone as often as the opportunity has presented itself for Robinson. Then you've got Williams. Yes, he's their running back, but a number of times he's got 20-plus receiving yards in the mix as well. So is there an opportunity for the Rams to be a little bit more creative here, even though the Dolphins are considerably not that great of a team? Dave, I'll start with you. Tom, you can answer Dave.
I think so. I'm looking at, so now trying to figure out who's going to catch the passes is one thing. And I know Adam's coming with, at some point, one of the receivers with receiving yards. We'll have that because that's always an Adam staple. I'm looking at attempts right now for the quarterbacks, and they're almost the exact same number, which Listen, I'm pretty excited that they're both in the 30s. We've done some really games where, like, the attempts were in the, low 20s. So expect a lot of throws. Trying to figure out who they're throwing to, I'll leave it up to you, Vecchio, because, one, you keep talking. I mean, you're talking me into this Puka Nacua. I might have to ult one of these things. This is him. It's him. He is him.
It is. When we look back to not last week, last week's not a good example because Puka Nacua gets ejected. We can look back to the Vikings game. We can't look back to any games this season. We actually have to look back to last year and the sample size when we saw both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua play. And again, we're looking at two players that have a 27 and 28 target share. We're accounting for nearly 60% of the passes essentially going to those two players, adding Kyren Williams coming in the backfield in the mid-teens. Again, we're looking at the pass plays going to over 70% of the pass plays going to these three players specifically. So we're not going to see Tutu Atwell, Colby Parkinson, Robinson, any of these secondary or tertiary players hit a lot of their overs. One or two may. But when a push comes to shove, the most important players in this offense are Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, and Puka Nacua. That's who we're going to see score tonight. So I like Kyren Williams. We'll get to him in a little bit. I also like him over on his attempts. I like Stafford over on his attempts. The Rams are running over 63 plays per game. We're going to see the offenses moving tonight.
Are they all scoring? I just want to know because last time we were all
don't let him answer that. This is an LLL thing. I don't know. There's a special moment. Or LLL, there we go. Don't go anywhere, though, because we're going to see if we can put our money where our mouth is. Same game parlays are coming up on the other side of this break here on Pro Football Today. It's the Pro Football Today pregame party. Kasey, Tom, Dave, and Adam. So stick with us here on SportsGrid. Follow SportsGrid over at SportsGrid, and we'll catch you guys with an SGP on the other side of this quick break.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today. It's the pregame party with Kasey, Tom, Dave, and Adam. But more importantly, it's time for us to get into some same-game parlays. I've got the parlays on lock, but it's not about me. It's not about me, and nor is it about my vocabulary. No, it's Monday, which means it's about Adam to get us started for the SGP party, and then Tom to counter him, unless they're on the same page, which is rare, but such a beautiful thing. So, Adam, get us started, please.
Yeah, it's always nice when my wallet and Tom's wallet are aligned. We don't like to root against each other. I'll tell you what, I gave out SGPs on this show Monday and Thursday last week, and damn it, Sharapan, they both hit. They both hit. So let's
You're
see
hot.
if we can do
Stay
it
hot.
again.
Stay hot.
Listen, we take nothing for granted. Let's just roll one day into the next and hope we can continue to stay green. 4 legs on this SGP for our Rams-Dolphins game. It is plus 430 available to you on FanDuel, though we always do encourage shop it around, obviously. We're not going to worry about the spread, even though I do think the Rams win this thing comfortably. We'll just take LA on the money line. Once again, 3 straight wins, and the Dolphins, if you missed it earlier, 1-14 straight up in their last 15 games as an underdog. Now, how's it going to happen? Matt Stafford, we're talking about going over on QB yardage. His baseline prop is just north of 250. It's like 253, something like that. Let's just call it 250, do the alt, and then obviously we'll look to him to exceed it. He has hit this number every time he has had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua available to him this season. I know it hasn't happened all that often, but they're there. They're healthy tonight, and this is a very important game for the Rams in terms of the NFC West standings, the NFC playoff standings, be it the division, wild card, whatever it may be. It's not unimportant for the Dolphins. It's just not as important because, let's be honest, this team is just not good, and I don't think they're going to rebound. The Rams, they are still alive to do something, and Stafford, he knows it. Now, that is only part of it. We're halfway home. How about the Dolphins side? How is Tua going to amass his yardage? We're looking to Jonnu Smith, the guy we have not even mentioned. Kasey, you love yourself a tight end. Over 3.5 receptions for Jonnu Smith. This dude is increasingly important in the Dolphins offense. 6+ targets each of the last 4 games. He has exceeded 4 catches in each of the last 4 games. Tua has been looking to him. The Rams, they are bottom 10 against the tight end position. Did I mention Tyreek Hill has a torn ligament in his wrist? So. Jonnu Smith is going to be available and ready to catch balls from Tua Tagovailoa. And the other dude has just been a mainstay. Rushing game, receiving game, all-purpose. Devon Achane, we're going to take him down to just 50+ rushing and receiving yards. He has cleared that number the last 3 games going away by at least 25 yards, as a matter of fact. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 50+ receiving alone or rushing alone. Dude could have the century mark in terms of yardage. We'll take 50+ rushing and receiving. That's what we have.
You said he could be a wide receiver. Tom, what's your counter? What's your parlay look like?
It's, I would say, largely in line with Adam. Start off with the Rams money line. I said this and I made this earlier. It's at -142. I think the Rams money line last time I saw was around -128 or so with the Hill news with him being ruled in. So you will technically get better odds. But starting with the Rams money line, they're going to win tonight. Puka's going to score. Again, they need to get him fully involved in the offense. If we look back to last year, again, when we had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp healthy, Puka Nacua's target share was sitting at 28%, and his red zone target share was at 20%. These were, not surprised, highest on the team between him and Cooper Kupp every single game. I then want to look to Puka alt yards at 60. I do like him over 67.5 yards, but I don't want to take him down to 60. I just want to go for that safety, of course. There are some variable factors when it comes to an SGP. There are chances that he ends with 50-some-odd yards. Cooper Kupp has 200 yards, and the Rams, when going away, and my SGP wouldn't hit in that circumstances. But I want Puka in the end zone tonight at +150. I love the Jonnu Smith play. I actually tweeted about him the other day for a touchdown up at +250 because I do think he will play a role in the red zone, which we can get to a little bit later. But SGP at +345, I think this is super solid. I said it the other day when it was a DeAndre Hopkins game for the Chiefs when they were playing the Bucs at home. It was a DeAndre Hopkins game. Tonight is a Puka Nacua game for the Rams.
All right, we'll put that one on the board. We're going to give Dave some time to digest this because there are some similarities, which means the decision's going to be even harder. And Dave, I know you hate picking a winner, but it's just so much fun putting you all in the hot seat. Make sure you're following SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. More importantly, make sure you're following these three and myself. Talk with us during the game while in-game live is giving you all the odds, lines, and so much more. But more importantly, we got more Pro Football Today pregame party coming at you on the other side of this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Join us back here on the other side.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey, Tom, Dave, and Adam. But I'm not going to take up too much time, no, because there were some similarities between Adam and Tom's same game parlays, which means Dave's in the hot seat. He's got to pick a kid. Which one gets deemed the night today?
You guys get mad at me when I say I like them both, and I can't do that.
It's illegal.
But it would have been right.
It's illegal.
It would have picked. I know, that's fine. That's fine. I understand. But it would have been right. Just for the record, it would have been right because they both hit last week.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that said, Adam, yours is great. Okay, you got a nice little payout. You added an extra layer in there with 4. That looks awesome. Okay, really. And the Smith one, that has to win. The Stafford one, most very likely to win. The only thing that may take you down here is that the Dolphins win the game. But when Vecchio comes on and says it's a wide receiver game and then names said wide receiver, like I am saying right now, Puka is definitely scoring. I might even say he's scoring twice. And then how doesn't he get the receiving yards over all total? That, I mean, I'm convinced. So you make me pick tonight. It's Monday. It's Vecchio.
Wow.
Well, this is actually good because I won't be here on Thursday, right? I'll be in studio on Thursday doing in-game live, so it'll be Kasey and Adam going head-to-head. Well, you have to go against Kasey.
Yeah, there you go, Adam. Did you hear the emphasis on that? You got to go against me, big guy, which means good luck. Good luck.
And Adam, that parlay is going to be 2 players to both score in the first quarter and 2 to score in the second.
And it's finally going to hit. It's finally going to hit. I'm going to pick a player per quarter and watch them all finally freaking hit. I'm going to have my first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter guide. I'm going to come with all the freaking numbers so you guys laugh it up. Laugh it up. And that's exactly why – no, I almost just made – whatever. It's totally fine. I also hope Puka Nacua gets this team downfield and never finds the end zone tonight because I got Robinson scoring the touchdowns.
I have Puka alted as Joe Lisi says, alt him all the way to the moon. It's a Puka Nacua game, not just over 67.5. It's 70, 80,
One day, the to the moon is going to fail. The gas is not going to be there to get them out into the atmosphere. No, I'm just kidding, guys. We're a team here. We're a team. Let's get back on the same page. Let's take the hostility down. My bad. Tom, you got it. Puka Nacua and all the good things. Until Thursday, Adam, I got your number here. Let's go ahead and dive deeper into the wide receiver conversation. It's Puka Nacua's night. There's some other guys who could potentially get into the mix. We know that the Rams should be able to have a big game versus this Dolphins defense that lets up an average of, 187 through the air. So, Tom, you are also really good with pointing out some secondary involvement. I'll give you that. Who are some other guys that could potentially take notice tonight that maybe there should be some props on or some gauging, at least through the live betting, when it comes to the wide receivers on both sides?
So for the Dolphins, it's tough because of the Tyreek Hill news.
You said it wrong. It's tricky. Come on now.
Sorry, tricky.
Thank you.
It is with Tyreek Hill. And the quote that Adam Schefter tweeted is that Tyreek Hill said to Lisa Salters that he's going to, quote, give it a go tonight. And that's not very encouraging. So I think Jalen Waddle should be in for a big game. Now, I do see scenarios where they will draw up plays to get Tyreek the ball that are not traditional passing plays, where he does the jet sweep and Tua does that little toss to him, right? So he can catch the ball and that counts as a reception. And then we can get him on a little bit of a jet sweep or like these little pitch plays that we see Patrick Mahomes do to Travis Kelce. So they're still going to look to get the ball to Tyreek Hill. It may not be out of traditional passing routes just because if the ligament hurts, like he can't catch the ball, whatever it might be. So I still think there's a path to Tyreek Hill getting yardage tonight. I think that Jalen Waddle is, of course, the safer play because at any point, if Tyreek Hill also leaves the game, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. So I am on board with going to Jalen Waddle as probably the primary option, then looking to Jonnu Smith as the secondary option, and then Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is very, very it's just up in the air tonight. Like he's either going to go fly over, he can have 80 yards on these really quick passes where he doesn't actually have to run a route, and he still gets the ball and he just yards after the catch. Maybe there's rushing available for him, or there's a chance he ends with like fewer than 20 yards combined just because his wrist acts up and he can't play. So I'm on board going Jalen Waddle as the primary option for the Dolphins tonight.
Yeah, I actually am a big fan of that, especially the reception point out on that one. Waddle, from what I'm seeing on FanDuel, 46.5 is where his numbers are sitting at. It took forever to see any sort of wide receiver numbers for the Dolphins. Clearly, we know why. Adam, what are your thoughts on the wide receivers for this Monday night matchup?
Yeah, look, I've seen a lot of people on Tyreek Hill today, and I guess in fairness to them, that was, knowing full well that he had the wrist issue and will he play, won't he play, but not knowing the extent of it, and as Tom mentioned, the torn ligament that he mentioned pregame to Lisa Salters. I don't want any part of Tyreek Hill today. He is very much on my fade list. Doesn't mean he's not going to go out there, perform well, score 2 touchdowns, have a dozen catches for 150 yards. I don't know, but I don't want any part of it because I don't want to be on the wrong side of that. I wouldn't be at all surprised, especially when we're talking about guys, quote, giving it a go. I mean, maybe that's the same thing as Puka Nacua giving it a go 2 weeks ago when the dude had like 1,000 yards in the first quarter because Sean McVay had Matt Stafford with tunnel vision for, Puka. I don't know. I don't think it's going to look like that. I am in line. As much as I can't stand Jalen Waddle on a week-to-week basis because I just feel like, one, at least
is
twice
he your
a
Zay
game.
Is in this mix-up?
Personal.
Is he your Zay Flowers in this one?
It's not quite that bad. It's just, listen, I mean, we all know at least twice a game, Jalen Waddle leaves the field. He hobbles up. He has to go to the blue medical tent. You don't know if he's going to return, and then you get the alert on your phone. Jalen Waddle's returned to the game, and you're just begging for him to get to like 40 yards. Guy had multiple catches last week. You know how many yards he had? He had not as many as I did. He had -1 yard. minus 1 yard last
Negative.
week. That's almost impossible. Okay? It's almost impossible, but he found a way. So he scares me. But all that being said, with Hill being in the condition that he is in, if it's not Smith or it's not Achane, Waddle has to have a good situation. He has to.
Is anybody going to rush the ball tonight?
Yes.
That's where we were going, Dave.
How about
Somebody is going to do it. I'm picking up on Zay Flowers vibes from Adam in comparison to Waddle. And if you guys saw, after that whole spiel last week, Zay Flowers destroyed a lot of people's cards. Not on purpose, though, always. It does sound exactly. It does sound like a Tyreek Hill is currently the sweetest taboo. So let's switch to the running back room. I'm feeling, I'm sticking with the lyrics. Kyron Williams is throwing me for a loop here because you're coming off of a game, them being the Dolphins, where there wasn't a big run game or ground game by the Bills, who we know can take advantage of something like that. Then you got Williams sitting at 84.5 rushing yards, but we have seen him, again, go for about 25-plus receiving yards for this Rams offense. So talking about the running back group, what are these numbers trying to tell us? Because I'm a little not at ease. I'm a little... it's suspicious. I don't know what to expect with Williams and 84.5 rushing yards.
I love Williams tonight.
Yeah? Talk to me.
I love him specifically over 19.5 attempts. The yardage is the yardage. I think you can take it. I think it's fine. The 19.5 attempts is the play. He's been over this mark in 5 of 6 games. He has at least 19 carries in 6 straight games. Again, the Rams are running over 63 plays per game. There's a chance, again, that we see Stafford go over on his attempts, over on his completions, and we still see Kyron Williams get to 20-plus total carries, because this is just what the Rams do. And if I'm expecting this game to push towards 50 points, as Adam said, like, we're kind of in agreement on that, the Rams are going to be out there running plays. If the Cardinals, who I think are fake good, can put up nearly 30 points, the Rams, who are at full health, will absolutely put up that much.
Why the Cardinals catching praise? The Cardinals took care of the
We'll
Jets.
sit with that for a second. Just to put into context.
The Cardinals haven't beat anyone good. Look at their schedule.
Just to put into context,
Dolphins
Dolphins are sitting 13th in the league for rushing yards allowed, 120. And mind you, there was some stumpage versus the Bills. Everybody process that for just a second. We got to go to another quick break here. Make sure you're following SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. Make sure you're following these pretty faces as well. And more importantly, make sure you stick with us here on Pro Football Today, the pregame party on the other side of another quick break.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
watching Pro Football Today, the pregame party with Kasey, Tom, Dave, and Adam. But while we had a whole conversation going on before the break, we'll pick it back up. We still have some positions to take head-to-head and cases to be made. But right now, we got to throw some love into the mix with some like it, love it, or leave it. Let's go. All right, Tom, no pressure. What are you launching for us today?
It's not tricky. It's LLL. There are 3 of each. So let's
there
go to Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. It's combined for 200-plus receiving yards, up at plus 450. I love the fact that it's not, both to have 100-plus. It's not both to have this. It's just combined. One player could have 150, the other player 60. I don't really care. It would like to be great for Puka, but at plus 450, as I said, the Dolphins' defense at face value kind of looks good when you see that they're giving up less than 200 passing yards per game. But again, we have to look back at some of the opponents that they played, and we actually dig down to a granular level. They are the 5th worst defense in terms of DVOA. They are worse than the Giants. They are worse than the Bengals, specifically when it comes to DVOA. Now, there's just an overall metric. It's not specifically one thing or another, but they are not a good defense. That's just what we're seeing. We saw Josh Allen tear them apart last week. We saw Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison tear them apart a couple of weeks ago. That's what we're going to see from Matt Stafford when he has 2 offensive linemen back tonight, plus Cooper Kupp, plus Puka Nacua, plus Kyron Williams coming in the backfield, plus 450 for these players to combine for 200-plus.
Wow, a lot of math going on there. Adam, what are you adding to the table here?
So normally, and Dave mentioned this before, I like to dive into the game specials on FanDuel, look for this guy, that guy to each have 5 first quarter, receiving yards plus who cares? I scanned the board. There's nothing good that I liked. So I made myself another parlay, another SGP, except I laddered up some stuff. And do I think this is going to hit? No, honestly, I don't. But it's worth the sprinkle. I put a little bit on it because I am just, it's pizza money, it's hot dog money, it's whatever money. Because I think that if this game goes the way that we keep talking about it going, it is very live to happen. And that is 3 dudes far exceeding their receiving lines. And I know Tom's going to be on board with me for at least part of it. You're looking at it on your screens now. Jonnu Smith. 40-plus receiving yards. He has done this now, being, again, a focal point in that offense with Tua Tagovailoa 3 out of the last 4 games. Devon Achane, 50-plus receiving yards. He has hit this. In fact, he's hit 60-plus in 3 straight games. And Puka Nacua, there's a little bit of narrative street here in this play. He returned 2 weeks ago from his injury. Hadn't played since, obviously, week 1. There was what's he going to be? Is he going to be a decoy? Is he going to do anything? Stafford was trained to hit Puka Nacua in that game. He went for how many yards? 106 on 7 catches in that game. Last week, he again tries to deck a dude in the opening quarter and gets his butt tossed from the game. He's coming into this one angry. So, yeah, it's not quite to the moon, but it's 100-plus out of Puka Nacua. So if we have 100-plus for Puka, 40-plus for Jonnu Smith, 50-plus for Devon Achane, that is receiving, not rushing, those 3 together, you're getting better than 15-1 odds. I think it is worth a flyer.
All right. Hopefully there's no anger management for Puka Nacua. All right, Dave, throwing it in the pot. I got Kupp, Achane, and Williams to combine for 4+ touchdowns. This was coming in at plus 500 for me. Somebody said they could see Cooper Kupp with 2 touchdowns tonight. It wasn't me specifically, but it doesn't matter. I just need a combination of 4 between these 3 names. So what are you liking? What are you loving? And what are you leaving? Yeah, it's a nice one.
All right, let's work in reverse. That is beautiful.
Sexy.
I love it. It is really nice. And it doesn't require specifics, which I kind of like. I mean, if we're going to walk this way.
I'm saving it for Thursday.
We're going to wear my Adidas.
Walk this way.
Wow.
Yes, we'll go this way.
That was a good one.
Parlay for you. We're going. I
good.
love this one, Case. I love it. All right.
Hey.
Now we go with Adams, and if it's like that, and that's the way it is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we really like it. I think I got to leave this one. I mean, Kaufman shot for the moon. All right, this is
Christmas in Hollis.
This is Mars. This is Mars.
Not yet Christmas in Hollis. All right, but listen, if we're gonna rhyme, we're gonna like it, we're gonna love it. we could go Peter Piper and look at different things. And somehow, I think I'm leaving Adams, but Tom, I don't want to say it again. I mean, you called the Puka Nacua game. Yep. Puka may do this himself. I think this is another love it. All right? I think this might be, I mean,
wow.
I don't know. I don't want to say, yes, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I love it. I love it. You're not going to be here on Thursday. We're going to miss you. We're going to miss you. Listen.
Casey's is good.
Sucker MCs in here. No sucker MCs.
Casey's is good, but there's no Puka in there for me. So I think it's like this and like that and like this, and so I'll stay with mine and not go to Casey's because there's no Puka in there.
I gotta give Tom that one. Wow, you guys are pulling out all the stops. I thought I was ingenious with the tricky, but I'm so proud of y'all. This is a big proud moment. Aside from the fact that no Puka Nacua there. I want to say it's his game, and you have been spot on every time that you say it. But for some reason, just looking over the past 3 games, on Pawn, Cooper Kupp's return, and so on and so forth, I just feel like he's going to be reserved for just special moments, and special moments don't always mean yards or the end zone, at least not in my case. I need this long shot to hit. We do need to talk about the running backs. I know we've got a limited amount of time, but Dave, can you kind of get us started on the conversation before we close out here?
Listen, I think if you look at the running backs, other than Williams, then you be illin'. I mean, you be illin'. It's done. There's no shot. I don't think anyone's even touching the ball. I went through the odds. I mean, this is crazy. But what do you guys think of Tua over 4.5 yards rushing? That's
4.5? Oh.
4.5 yards rushing for Tua.
That's wild. I hope I don't see him rushing at all. But all right, not to make everything a competition. Yeah, it's just they got to keep it as calm as possible. Not to make everything a competition, but Tom's coming in hot. He matched. He went toe for toe with the lyrics. His SGP could be sharp again, and it's a Puka Nacua game. So not to gas you up, maybe I'm playing nice before you come in studio on Thursday. Don't go anywhere. We get some final thoughts on the Dolphins versus the Rams coming up for Monday Night Football before in-game live and talking at the wall with Donnie Rightside. So stick with us here.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today, the pregame show with Kasey, Tom, Dave, and Adam. Getting some final thoughts from the guys. Again, follow them over on X as well as at SportsGrid as we continue to chat throughout the game while you're watching the in-game live crew. Keep you up to date on all odds, lines, and best bets to angle at. Tom, final thoughts, if you want to talk about the running back room or lack thereof or just anything else, or just double, triple, quadruple down on the Puka Nacua game.
Kyron Williams over 19.5 attempts is something that I certainly like, as I mentioned that. I do like Puka over 67.5 receiving yards. I do like him at 80+, which is sitting up at plus 142, or it was. I think that's what we're going to be seeing from them tonight. You know, as I mentioned, I kind of do like Jonnu Smith for a touchdown as well, plus 250. Again, once they get to the red zone, if Tyreek Hill, legitimately has trouble catching the ball due to the ligament issue, Tua is going to have to look to someone else besides Jalen Waddle, and we have seen good red zone usage for Jonnu Smith over the last few weeks. This is not to say I don't think Tyreek Hill could score. As I mentioned, maybe they get the ball to him in a creative way, but I do like Jonnu Smith's number up at plus 250. So it's partly just due to the injury. I'm also playing it up at that number where he could be the number 2 option. He has a 16.1 target red zone target share, which is the 3rd highest on the team. But if we're playing at that number, it actually could be the 2nd highest if we're taking Tyreek Hill out of the equation, if he's not going to be running traditional pass catching route. So I do like Jonnu at plus 250 as well for a touchdown.
All right, Adam, what are your final thoughts on this Dolphins versus Rams Monday night matchup?
Dave, you keep going against me. It's going to be Down with the King, if you know that song, Run DMC.
Wow.
Down with the King. And Tommy's over here. He's raising hell. That's another one for you. How about that? And Kasey, why you bugging?
I'm not looking against you.
Listen. Dave's going to need to change his clothes. We're getting a Rams win tonight. They're going to win it going away. I'm with Tom. I think L.A. is primed to show who the bleep they are, all right? This Rams team is finally hitting its stride, finally getting hot. Now that it's healthy, I have reinvested in a future in them making the playoffs. I have reinvested in a future in them winning the Super Bowl. I like this team a lot when intact. They have not been intact nearly enough this year, but now that we have signs of it once again, get ready for a big night. Let's hit some overs.
Okay. Look, I'll throw this into the mix. I like the playoff call when it comes to that. I like H.N. to have a pretty big game, over 56.5 rushing yards. Kenneth Walker, 83. Jones, 58. Mathis, 92. Jacobs, 73. And Swift, 93. This Rams team does let up a lot of ground game to the opposing team, and I think the Dolphins are going to try to make a point tonight. Not saying whose team I'm on. That's just my final thoughts on that one. Dave, final thoughts. Are you going to change your clothes? Do we have a switch up coming? Is there a different hat outside of the camera frame?
I don't know. I was thinking about all this stuff, and it just, I went, Mary, why you bugging? Dave, relax. I mean, there's so many things you got to think about tonight. Last time we did this on a primetime game, there were 70-something points scored. We were tweeting all night. I was having more fun watching the tweets and the back and forth, waiting for something to happen, and everybody cash all of their tickets. And then I was reminded that there's a couple teams playing. I mean, they're playing for playoff spots. And I think the winner of this game is going to be live to make the playoffs. The loser of this game is out. Keep that in mind. If you like the Rams tonight, bet them to make the playoffs because they're going to have a shot. Speaking of playoffs, I had to get it ready. I did. I mean, the Dolphins stuff looks great. But you know who won yesterday in Washington. You know who won. It's nighttime in Pittsburgh behind me. And we have to get a mention in for the Pittsburgh Steelers. AFC North Division odds ready to go. It's Ravens week. I'm so excited.
What a secret request.
Going into the game, I was worried. Minus 260? What are odds makers looking at? What are you thinking? I don't understand it.
Why did salt and pepper just pop in my head? Can you finish that one for me, Dave, Adam, Tom? Ooh, baby came to mind when he threw the Steelers hat on, and then just all the rest of the lyrics.
Talk about
push
something else. I didn't know what we're talking about.
Push it.
You
real
threw me off.
We're not pushing it. Okay, that's totally fine.
Who has more goals? Who has more tonight? Puka Nacua receptions or the Dallas Stars goals? I'll throw it to you.
Dallas
first.
Stars. the Stars, unless they just completely dry up from here on out. Plus, I need them to pick up some second period goals. This and so much more over on SportsGrid. Make sure you're following everybody over at X. More importantly, make sure you're following SportsGrid at SportsGrid. The conversation always continues, but more importantly, In-Game Live walks you through all the goodies. But we're not tossing it to In-Game Live yet. No, Ronnie. Donnie Rightside is joining me here at the Magic Ball to talk more best bets and angles. So make sure you join me and Donnie, Mr. Rightside.
Must be Donnie's house.
Yeah. If I wanted to sing, if I wanted to drop.
Together, both Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the two big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So, look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of concern, I would say, for Georgia in Carson Beck. 3 interceptions. Once again, his third 3-interception game in the last 5 for UGA.
You can argue if they had Alex Orji as their starting quarterback for Georgia, they would be perfect and unbeaten right now just by not turning the football over and running it with your talented backfield.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Pro Football Today, the pregame show. And as promised, it's Kasey Hudson and Donnie Rightside bringing you more information on this Monday night matchup, Rams-Dolphins. Getting ready to get started here with the In-Game Live crew. But before we toss to them, initial thoughts, Donnie.
Tyreek Hill in. That means we got juice tonight, and we're ready to get after it here, Kasey. Absolutely.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Got to see where it's leaning because we almost had a split decision. Almost, I emphasize, when it came to who was going to take this game. You had Dave Sharapan decked out in all the Dolphins gear, but then you had Adam on the more calm side being like, hey, it's Rams money line, and then you've got Tom Vecchio, who's all in on the Rams. So
yes.
Which way are you leaning when it comes to this?
It's the Rams. You look at the last 2 weeks for the Miami Dolphins, try to say last 2 games they played. Close losses, but losses stacking up. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're out of it.
Right.
They're going to have one good showing tonight on offense, but the defense just hasn't played. Okay, so the last 2 games they played, they scored 27 points. Worst case scenario, that's 1-1. They went 0-2. And I don't think that defense is going to be able to put up too much of a fight against a very competent offense in the Rams tonight. So, yes, I'm on the public side of the Rams. I think they win and cover, which means 3 points or more.
And that's why I chose the song Tricky, 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 because I think the Rams can do that in terms of play calling and everything else now being back on the healthier side. So talk us through some of your favorite plays when it comes to this matchup, because we feel like there's a lot of options on the Rams side of the ball. Tom is calling it a Puka Nacua game, but Cooper Kupp is usually the go-to guy, and then regardless of that, we've seen Robinson be more of the red zone guy. So where do we lean in terms of what the Rams offense is going to produce?
Here's what I like to do with these games, too. Take plus money with the wide receivers. If I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a good football game, and I do, I took a touchdown prop tonight on Puka Nacua. I believe that was plus 160, and one on Cooper Kupp at plus 140. The goal, yes, would be to go 2-0. Fantastic. 1-1 puts plus money in your back pocket, but I also did some of those alt parlays where I do think it's a Puka night. One parlay with 50 yards for him, one parlay with 40 yards for him. Then I did the same thing with Tyreek Hill on the opposite side for the Miami Dolphins, one with 50 with him and one with 40 yards, but also touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford, touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa, and as we say, it's like that, and that's the way it is.
There you go. See, we're keeping this rolling. I'm so proud of all of you. Now, switching it to the Dolphins side, because of all the question marks, now we know Tyreek is in the mix. Some people don't know what to expect when it comes to Waddle. Adam Kaufman sounded like he had a bone to pick with Waddle, just like he did with Zay Flowers a couple nights ago. So how do we start gauging this, and is Achane going to be the wide receiver as well as the running back in order for this Dolphins team to compete tonight?
Achane's been fantastic out of the backfield the last two ball games. And where is Waddle? Waddle got paid a lot of money in the offseason, was a high draft pick and an explosive player. You look at his last couple games, he looks like a pedestrian wide receiver. Somebody's got to pick up the scraps. But having said that, too, if you thought Tyreek Hill would have been down tonight and not playing, he's the one that's supposed to step up. But you see Tyreek Hill in the warm-ups. I mean, doing backflips, working up a lather in a sweat. He looks like he's ready to go tonight. Now, granted, land on that wrist, it might get hurt. I think he's going to be A-OK tonight. But you're right about that. Achane is going to have a good game out of the backfield. Anytime touchdown possibilities, absolutely. But I am worried about Waddle. Waddle should be getting, like, if you're rolling double coverage or rolling the safeties over to take care of Tyreek Hill, Waddle should be able to eat. He just hasn't done that. Maybe he does it tonight. Another game under center for Tua Tagovailoa. We're not worried about any weather conditions on a fast track. They should do very well on the outside.
All right, so that's the other thing to keep in mind. Now, is it going to work for the Dolphins to keep this close at least if Achane can continue to carry the workload? And then you mentioned Tyreek Hill looks fine because a number of people are still kind of reserved because you feared ligament tear in the wrist, and then it just puts you completely at odds with wanting to make any decisions there. So how confident do you feel like, hey, you can put this percentage on him and still make it work without completely selling yourself out for Hill?
Yes, that's the problem, right? Because if he has a good game for Tyreek Hill is 6 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. We don't maybe anticipate that, and we'll see what the work rate is, but just based on what you're seeing in pregame warm-ups, the activity, the running routes, he looks fantastic. Again, backflips and doing everything and catching passes. There's no reason to believe he's not hurt. You know what I would worry about it more? If it was a hamstring injury, an ankle injury, or a knee injury, because he has wheels. If he gets the ball open, catch the ball with your pads a little bit more. You don't have to catch that rocket over the middle and brace yourself with your left or right wrist, whatever one's hurting for him. So I'm buying into this. Typically for myself, I try to stay away with soft tissue injuries. But if you could tape up that wrist and he can catch, again, the ball with his pads more than his hands, why can't he have at least 50-plus yards with a legitimate chance to have a big night?
I love that perspective, and we know if a player decides to tap in, he's going to try to make it count. That's for sure. Now, we're talking about what Achane can potentially produce. I had a little concern about Williams on the ground for the Rams, but the guys didn't have any issue to say 84.5 rushing yards should not be a problem for Williams tonight. What do you foresee?
I like that, too, and also, if there is going to be, let's just say 3 touchdowns for the Rams tonight, I do think Stafford's going to get 2. Where it leaves the other one, you know it's going to be Kyren Williams on the ground. One of those running backs that should get much more talking about on the national landscape than he does. He is tremendous, and maybe on a primetime night, there's finally start to shift that focus. If he gets 15 carries, he's going to be over 80 yards. It's just a matter of the gameplay that comes into it. If Miami is lighting up that secondary for the Los Angeles Rams, maybe he doesn't get as many carries. But if this game is close, all throughout, like the spread dictates, a -2.5, why can't he get too close to 100 yards tonight? I love the guy.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that because that brings me to a number of questions. One being, go for the groundwork, 84.5 rushing yards. Go for the combine of receiving and rushing. That was sitting at 108 last I saw. Or kind of do a small play on his receiving yards sitting at 14.5 because we've seen him get 20-plus in a number of games.
It's a good like a problem to have per se, right?
Yes.
But for me, he is a ground back.
Okay.
Like Devon Achane, for me, if you said, Donnie, who's going to have more receiving yards out of the backfield? It's definitely going to be Achane. He's in that. 8 catches, 9 catches. We've seen that before, 50, 60, 70 yards. But Kyren Williams, he can hit the home run from the backfield. You would hate to say, boy, I took that number and he ran for 97 yards. And you're like, why did I do that to myself? He's a ground gainer, keep them on the ground, bet it that way for me.
All right, before we look at your betting card, I got to ask you this question, just with all the knowledge you're spitting. Would you even consider a Cooper Kupp, Achane, and Williams to combine for 4+ touchdowns at plus 500?
Yes, why not? I mean, if we're going to get close to 50, and again, everything lines up. We're not playing in Chicago with 32-degree temperatures and 15-mile-an-hour winds and rain in the forecast. You have the perfect night with speed burners on that turf tonight. And also, you haven't lost the Miami Dolphins just yet. Tyreek Hill, by the way, they lose this football game. He might have season-ending surgery tomorrow morning because it doesn't matter anymore if he plays. You're going to get the best effort out of both of these teams, and also over the Rams. They still need to keep up in the NFC West. You give me guys like that can absolutely burn. You might be in this at the half. Give me 2 touchdowns out of those 3 by the half. That's not crazy to think about. Why not?
I love it, putting our money where our mouth is. Now tell me about your favorite or your best bets for this matchup.
Again, love the wide receiver in this game, and I feel like I'm leaving Cooper Kupp out of the receptions and the yardage, but I definitely wanted him for touchdowns in the red zone. Love him at plus 140. Also flip it over to the same thing. I'm going to go the same wide receiver, same tandem here. Puka Nacua at a plus 160 price. One of those guys catches a touchdown pass, you're in the money. But I love both quarterbacks to throw at least 1 touchdown pass, and also there is that chance, like, you can get burned on Tyreek Hill. He's either going to have 32 yards tonight or 132 yards tonight. I don't see any in between, like 55 yards, but I did take it lightly on the parlays. Each quarterback to throw at least 1 touchdown, and then Puka Nacua 40 yards, and also Tyreek Hill 40 yards, and then another parlay the same way, having 50 and 50. Keep it nice, simple, and easy. Go with the big boys. I don't think it's going to lose.
All right. Tom also mentioned that Stafford's going to be one of those quarterbacks that can hit the over on all of his props for the night. Do we second that as well?
Absolutely. If you're saying coming into the game, which defense are you trusting the least, it's definitely going to be the Miami Dolphins defense. Easy.
Led up the most yards throughout the air thus far. 187 is the last thing that I saw. So a couple of plays that I was loving. Obviously, the over 1.5 passing touchdowns, over 34.5 pass attempts, because how does he not touch 40 plus? I have Achane on the ground for 56.5 rushing yards. I do have Williams for over 13.5 receiving yards. And everybody's talking about Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And as y'all know, if that long shot's going to hit, I love Cooper Kupp to find the end zone tonight. But Demarcus Robinson touchdown, plus 270.
Yeah.
I feel like we're not talking about that enough, because this is a guy who's picked up 2 tutties or 4 touchdowns, I should say, in his last 2 games, 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games. So this has been a big target for Stafford in the red zone, maybe to not make it too obvious, or what do you think here?
Yeah, picking up the scraps there, because it's hard to cover all 3 of those guys in the red zone. But also, Puka Nacua has the penchant to throw uppercuts during the game early, which means other guys are going to get more catches tonight. So for my sake, Puka, if you're going to throw the uppercuts, throw them late fourth quarter when everything is wrapped up. Otherwise, leave it alone out there for me.
We're hoping there's some anger management there.
Yeah,
but you know what? Sometimes it's the steam that you need to get a team across the finish line, a game that could be quite good tonight for Monday Night Football. Any final thoughts before we close out and throw to Endgame Live?
Look, let's go Rams in this game. Let's put up some big things, because at the end of the night, you're going to want to walk this way with more money in your pocket. How about that?
I am so proud.
Yeah.
I am so stinking proud. Make sure you're following SportsGrid over at SportsGrid. Make sure you're following the crew from earlier today. Endgame Live coming up next is Donnie joins Kevin and Joe to give you all the odds and lines and better player prop bets to navigate as this game gets going, because as we know, things can shake up at any time, especially as you start getting to halftime, where me and Tom Vecchio will join you again to get you up to date on all the goods. So stick around with us for all of your Monday Night Football coverage here on SportsGrid TV. It's time for the in-game live crew to take over. We'll catch you guys at halftime.
Together.
You say this is a smash, I'm going to run out and smash my button while you talk about Ramondre Stevenson.
I don't think the Bengals defense is one that you should be fearful of. I think they're middle of the pack. You know, they've lost the Bateses and some of those guys over the years that you used to fear. They got a lot of young kids in there who have some talent. But at the same time here, I do expect Ramondre to be a guy that is going to revert back to what he did a couple years ago.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Ravens starting their season 0-2, and I mean the numbers and what the market had eyeing this team heading into this season is probably almost up in flames at this point.
Their last however many games being down 10 plus points in the fourth quarter, inability to close out, getting picked apart by what is largely considered a below average quarterback with a below average receiving core.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Everyone had him Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Bears are going to the Super Bowl, Eberflus Coach of the Year. He was terrible.
If he's going to be a success, he's got to play within structure. as much as possible. I get it. If the pocket breaks down, throw off platform. That's fine. But within structure, when the play is there to be made, you need to make it, and he didn't do that.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
This would have been a bet that I would have lost big on in terms of betting on Trevor Lawrence thus far. Because, Vinny, I thought he was an absolute rock-solid, can't-miss first overall pick.
They're underachieving a bit. I mean, I don't think this is the best adjustment team with Doug Peterson. He's not the best adjuster. If everything's kind of falling into place and everyone's executing well and he can just do what they want to do.
Newswire.